Today I wanted to speak about the courage to love. The first thing that you know, love is wild. You cannot control love. So any attempt to control love, to make it abide by the wishes of your ego, is not going to work. You're working with other human beings. You're a work in progress. They're a work in progress. And in love, you cannot control the way this love is going to proceed. You know, a lot of people talk to me in frustration about their relationships. And when you listen to these people talking about the relationship that's not going the right way, a lot of times it's coming from the point of reference of one person who's saying this relationship is not proceeding the way it should. But what they really mean is it's not proceeding the way I want. The first thing to accept about love is the energy of love is wild. It's uncontrollable. When you try to control it, you actually lose love because you're stymieing and stopping the flow of the other person. So one reason love takes courage is because you're dealing with a wild energy. You cannot harness it. It needs to go where it needs to go. It flows. They're like two people under the same roof. Both are growing, and they're growing perhaps in unpredictable directions. So that takes courage. The second reason you need courage for love is that your heart is made of soft flesh, and your emotions are human, soft emotions. And in love, what you're doing, you are surrendering your heart and yourself to love. In other words, love means surrendering yourself to that force. And the ego is very upset about this. The ego is the part of us that says, look, here's my name, here's my nationality, here's my income. I'm going to do anything possible to keep this predictable. The ego wants an organized, controlled life and predictable. Soul basically flies. Then when you fall in love, what's happening is you're giving yourself over to another being, which means loss of control. It's not just love. If you love dancing, during dance, you lose yourself. If you play the guitar, while you're playing it, you lose yourself. Same thing with swimming, whatever. Any activity that causes loss of self has two effects. Loss of self panics the ego. The other thing is it brings bliss. Anytime you've experienced fresh joy in the moment, it's because you drew back a curtain of fear. And on the other side of fear was something fresh. But it's kind of loss of control. Whenever you draw back a curtain of fear and you step beyond fear, there's a fresh moment. And those are exhilarating moments. It's the same thing with love. In love, you actually lose the self. If you think back to the first time you fell in love, first of all, why do we use this verb, falling in love? Is because the ego, the self, is being lost. So you're tumbling. That's why they call it falling in love. Because the self is being lost in love. And it takes a lot of courage for this soft heart to offer itself to another person and say, well, here you are, here's my heart. It takes a lot of courage. Secondly, the energy of love is wild, so you cannot tame it and make it go your way. Thirdly, when you're in love with somebody and they're in your life, they are in your face like a mirror. When you have a close person in your life, you're getting constant feedback because they're in your face. Therefore, it takes a lot of courage because somebody's telling you that certain parts of you need to change or some parts of you are not working. When you're single by yourself, there's really nobody to correct your course. This talk is not advocating that everybody should be in a relationship, but in a relationship, you have constant feedback. It takes a lot of courage for you to handle that feedback. If it's somebody you care about and they give you tough feedback, then you have this dilemma. On the one hand, you love them. On the other hand, it's difficult for you to step out of your habits. That's what's tough about feedback. Also, if it's somebody you love and they give you some feedback that's not so pleasant, again, you have to, well, I still love them, but why am I getting this feedback? There's this negotiation going on. So the feedback part of love also requires courage. Another reason you need courage for love is that before you go into a truly loving relationship, you have to drop your emotional baggage. What do I mean by that? If you are super jealous, if you're super stingy, if you are an alcohol drinker, if you're a gambler, whatever, when you take your baggage of difficult emotions into a relationship, you are planning to destroy that person from day one. People, I think they deny this. It's like somebody who's managing alcoholism goes into a relationship and says, well, it's the first of spring and everybody's dating and I want love also. But you're managing alcoholism. So when you walk into that relationship with alcoholism, you're beginning to destroy that other person because you're in the same room. And an alcoholic is unpredictable. That's just one example. What if you're stingy? What if you're super pessimistic? What if you're depressed? What if you can't get a job? Well, the other person becomes your partner in this. You understand what I'm saying? So if you really want to love somebody, it takes incredible courage to say, okay, the past 20 years, I have been a heavy smoker. Now I'm entering the life of this woman who's a non-smoker. And if I want to enter this relationship, I cannot enter it on day one with personal attributes that are going to damage that other person. You can go in that way, but then you really don't love the other person. If you go in with severe depression, you're bringing them in as a partner into your depression. It's very unfair. So think about all your friends and relatives. How many of them took the courage to clean up their act before they confessed strong love to somebody? 1 or 2 dates is okay. But you go to somebody and say, I want you to be in my life. And then you're a drinker. So it takes a lot of courage to say, all right, I love this person so much that before I go and share this apartment with them, I am going to drop my difficult emotional baggage. I'm talking about the big, big things. Small things, everybody's working on. That's another reason why love takes courage. Another one, you have 5 senses. I have 5 senses. The 5 senses want. So you're in your 3rd month in a relationship, you go to a beach full of bikinis and good-looking guys. Guess what's going to happen to your 5 senses? You're not made of stone and you're not blind. You're going to look at some beautiful people. That's different from sleeping with people. Your eyes just want because you have 5 senses. That's never going to stop. It's different from having an affair. And all I'm saying is one other way that love takes courage is that this world is a candy store of distractions. And when you make up your mind to be in a relationship, all those other distractions are there. There are still a lot of beautiful people out there. And so one day your partner takes a business trip, and then this gorgeous person is walking in front of you. I'm just giving you different examples. So then you're in the candy store. And it takes courage to say, well, I'm committing to this person. You can still look at beautiful people, but taming your 5 senses to go deeper into one relationship, that takes courage. Overall, vertical growth like staying with one person and going deeper. Vertical growth in any part of life is more difficult than horizontal growth. Horizontal growth means I'm going to get on online dating, and every 2 weeks I'm going to change my date. That's horizontal growth. Vertical growth with one person is like a meditation. Going deeper in meditation is much harder than having 14 different meditation teachers. Because there you're just skipping and window shopping. That's another reason why you need courage for love, is that your 5 senses are never going to stop wanting. Another reason you need courage for love, if you have self-love, which is the very first form of love that you should have, then with self-love, you have to have the courage to leave an abusive relationship. And that, according to psychologists, is one of the most painful things you'll ever do. Some people say loss of a romantic partner is emotionally more difficult than losing your parents in terms of the intensity of the emotion. But in love, you can see that, practically speaking, self-love has got to be much more important than any other kind of love. Because if you don't love the self, then really you don't even know what love is. If I'm at odds with myself and I'm offering my heart to someone else, then this is a bad scene, because I don't even know how to love myself. How am I going to love somebody else? Therefore, if you love yourself and somebody starts abusing you, one of the hardest things to do is to walk out. Because once you're enmeshed with each other in the same apartment, it's very difficult to trust your own judgment. It's like, am I being abused or not? By the time you're enmeshed, it's extremely difficult for you to keep some healthy boundaries. This is the next topic. Another reason love takes courage is for you to maintain boundaries with people that you love very dearly. Even your own children, If mama cannot have any me time, then she's going to start becoming an awful mother, because after a while your nervous system just gets run down. So how hard is it for a mom with a 2-year-old to establish some boundaries? Very difficult. Finally, this is the end of our talk. Finally, the biggest courage that you'll ever have to show is when your loved one for a whole lifetime is leaving their body, saying goodbye. This, I haven't gone through it, but I think it must be one of the most difficult things in the world. Having a lifetime with somebody and then physically having to say goodbye. These were some thoughts about the kind of courage it takes to love. It's probably the most brave thing you've ever done, because it's stretching you in every direction. Lots of love to you, and we'll come back later for another talk.